Hello guys, welcome back. So I have a very exciting video for you guys today. If you guys have been following along on my community posts, you would know that I have been testing out the new Insta360 GO Ultra. I believe this launched about a month ago now, and I've just been trying to take this around with me, get myself familiar with it, and I'm finally ready to share with you guys a full in-depth review. But we're gonna make this a little bit different because, as some of you guys know, I have owned the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 for quite some time. I think I got this at like the very beginning of my YouTube journey, so I'm definitely a lot more familiar with the Osmo Pocket 3. And just as a little disclaimer, this video is sponsored by Insta360, so I'm not going to be making any kind of like formal conclusion on which one is better. What I'm mainly going to be talking about, and my goal for this video, is to just give you guys all the information that you need so that you can make a better informed decision if you're trying to decide between these two. So I hope you guys are excited for this little comparison video, and with that, let's get started. So I want to go through a quick specs overview of both of these cameras, and something to know is both of these cameras can shoot in 4K, and instead of going step by step through every single setting with you guys, I will just put them up on the screen right here. And something to know about these types of cameras is you're generally going to want to stick with the auto settings. But some high level differences to know is the Osmo Pocket 3 is able to shoot in D-Log, which is basically like a washed out color profile. So if you're someone that really values like color grading, this might be a little bit better of an option for you. For the sake of this video comparison and the clips that you guys will see later on, I did shoot all of the clips in normal. Also, something to know specs wise, the Osmo Pocket 3 does have a larger sensor, so it can perform a little bit better in low light, which you guys will be able to see a little bit later on in this video. Very quickly, I want to do a little audio check and comparison between these two cameras. So with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, you are able to change the direction that you want the built-in mic to pick up. So this one is the front, this is the front and back, and then this one is all around. And then finally, this is what it sounds like with the external mic. This is what the Insta360 GO Ultra sounds like with the built-in mic and with sport wind reduction on. And then this is what the mic sounds like with voice enhancement on. And then this is what it sounds like with an external mic, and this is the DJI Mic Mini. And as far as camera build goes for each of these cameras individually, with the GO Ultra, it is completely waterproof and shockproof, so it is a lot more durable of a camera. Additionally, you can remove the camera from the pod itself. And then on the back side of the camera, it is magnetic, so you can pretty much mount this anywhere as long as there is some sort of magnetic surface. And the nice thing about being able to separate these two is you do get remote viewing, and you're still able to control the camera directly from the pod. If you do value the most minimal setup, you actually can just take the camera on its own without the pod. So the camera has its own record or shutter button. This is also where you store the micro SD. Like I mentioned before, the back is magnetic. It also has these hooks that are compatible with the other mounting accessories that I'm going to show you guys in a second. So basically, this camera is completely functional even if it's not connected to the pod. Depending on how you rotate the camera, it can shoot horizontally or vertically. It does have a super wide field of view at 156 degrees, which is about like 14.27 millimeters in focal length. And the battery life on this is about 70 minutes with the camera itself, and connected to the pod, it's about 200 minutes. The camera itself takes only 12 minutes for an 80% charge and 20 minutes for a full charge. Overall, as you guys can probably tell, the GO Ultra definitely values being more portable and durable. And the camera itself is the size of my palm. It weighs only about 53 grams. So in comparison to the Osmo Pocket 3, which weighs 179 grams, this is definitely a significantly more lighter and discreet option. But just to give you guys a quick overview of the build on the Osmo Pocket 3, this is a gimbal, so you can take advantage of active stabilization on this camera. Very conveniently, alongside of it being a gimbal, this also comes with tracking features. The rest of the camera is actually quite simple. You just have this joystick to be able to turn and rotate the gimbal head to whatever you're trying to film, and then a record button and a slot for your micro SD. And then it does have this rotatable screen, which enables you to film horizontally as well as vertically. Total runtime of this camera is about 166 minutes. When it comes to charging, it takes about 16 minutes for an 80% charge and 32 minutes for a full charge. The camera itself does have a decently wide focal length at 20 millimeters. Overall, as you guys can probably tell, this is a lot more delicate of a build, but I do think a lot of the beauty of the Osmo Pocket 3 is the fact that it is a handheld camera, which you guys will kind of see later on in the video when I do more of my shot type comparisons between these two cameras. But next, I want to talk about the actual accessories that you guys can get with each of these cameras to really bring out their full capabilities. So starting with the GO Ultra side, I have the Insta360 pivot stand. So you can attach the entire camera with the pod to the pivot stand itself. You can also attach just the camera alone to the pivot stand. Because the camera, and even with the pod itself, it's so light, it just has this very snug ball head, so there's no like twisting and tightening mechanism, which is actually quite nice and like makes this a very minimal setup. I think the most interesting thing about the pivot stand is it does have this reusable sticky base. Basically allows you to be able to mount this onto any surface. I think what's really cool about the GO Ultra Creator Bundle is the fact that they give give you a lot of different mounting options. So for example, they give you this magnetic pendant. So pretty much how this one works is you actually can wear it and you place the pendant underneath your shirt so that when you attach the camera, it doesn't end up swinging or like bouncing around as you're moving. I feel like this shot kind of reminds me of like a video game where you're playing that like first person POV and you like see their hands out in front of you. Another unique mounting option that they have is what they call their magnetic easy clip. So as you can see, it pretty much snaps to whatever angle, and the other side is this little clip that you can attach to something like a baseball cap, and you can get those really cool, more overhead POV shots. Final little thing that comes in the creator bundle is their 2-in-1 tripod. So this is actually a micro SD card holder. I believe you can swap this out for like a little remote so you can, you know, start recording from a distance after you have your camera set up. And then of course, these are kind of like multi-use products within the bundle, but I just removed the mounting piece, which you can then screw onto the tripod. Again, you can attach the camera with the pod right on top or just the camera by itself. I will say something that I really love about Insta360's accessories is they just try to build in as much functionality as possible, even though it is an accessory. So for example, this actually has built-in tripod legs that just pop out like that, and you can easily just shove them back in. And then on top of that, they made this super long selfie stick. So you can prop it up with the tripod legs and get a lot of extra height, or you know, you can just like very simply use it as a regular selfie stick. Even their wrist strap is a little bit different than anything that I've seen from like a camera company. So on the wrist strap, they created this quick release mechanism. So you can either attach it to the camera itself, or you can obviously attach it to the actual pod. This is how I tend to carry it because I'm just like always mounting the camera anywhere and everywhere. But then sometimes while I'm doing it, it's just really handy to be able to hold this completely hands-free while I'm setting that up. So yeah, I will say they really thought of it all when it came to creating this creator bundle. Next up, I have the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 creator combo. What's really cool about the Osmo Pocket 3 and how it's built is you can easily attach accessories to the camera just like that. So this little accessory is actually just like a little handle so that you have a little bit more space to grip the camera. And then this is like a really basic tripod stand that you screw onto the bottom of the handle, which you will notice that you aren't able to attach the tripod legs to the camera itself. So that's just something to note. Like you need to have this in order to attach or screw on anything to the bottom of this camera. Similar to the standard handle, there is a longer version, but what's a little bit different about this one is it's actually a battery pack. So it's essentially like a longer handle and battery combined. And the really nice thing about this is you can continue to film. You don't need to stop to charge the camera, which is really nice when you're on the go. The creator combo also comes with a wireless mic that you can connect to the camera via Bluetooth. And then finally, this is the cover for the camera. Since it is a gimbal, this is quite the delicate product, so you do need to be a little bit careful in how you store it. And then I do have some little thing magnetically stored in there, and this is actually the wide angle lens. As you can see, it is super duper tiny. Like I mentioned before, this is a magnet, so you are able to attach it to the camera just like that and shoot a little bit wider of an angle when you're filming. And then of course you do get a little wrist strap, but you know, there's nothing really special here in comparison at least to the Go Ultra one. So the price of the Go Ultra by itself is $450 US, and the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is around $800 US. So this is definitely a lot more expensive of an option. But again, we're gonna continue this comparison because I do want you guys to figure out which of these cameras suits you better. It obviously does matter like what camera you pick, but I think what matters more is like how you actually see yourself using it within your day-to-day life. Also, I just want to quickly mention that if you guys are the most interested in the Insta360 GO Ultra, then the first 10 people to use the link in my description box will receive a free gift upon checkout. So if you are set on getting the Insta360 GO Ultra, then make sure to check out the link down below. I think what you guys will probably really want to know or really envision in terms of like when you're trying to decide between these two cameras is the types of clips and the types of shots that you'll be able to get out of them. So for the most part, I feel like when it comes to these two cameras, you're going to be able to get like very similar types of shots, but they're very like subtly different. And I think that's like where you come in, where you have to determine, is that more so what I'm going for? Is that what I'm more comfortable filming, etc., etc. So I'm going to go through each one, and I hope as I go that makes more sense. Let's start with your like typical walk and talk vlog. A little extra bonus with the Osmo Pocket 3 is it does come with tracking features. As you move around, the camera will also shift with you, so you'll have a little bit more of that like dynamic movement that's like going on in the frame itself. The Go Ultra actually has a wider focal range, so if you're someone that likes to shoot content with your friends and you're trying to do this like walk and talk talk kind of vlog and you want to make sure that your friends are in frame, it's very easy to do so on the Go Ultra than it is on the Osmo Pocket 3. Even though I mentioned before, the tracking features is a plus to the Osmo Pocket 3, when you are shooting with someone else, it actually makes it a little bit more difficult just because it's going to track you. So it's always going to make sure that you're in the center. So if you're with someone and they're not, you know, really close to you, they're probably going to get cut off. So I just feel like that's something to keep in mind. If you're someone that's, you know, quite social, you go out with your friends, you want to film with your friends, then I think the Go Ultra might be better suited to that for this particular shot type. Next, we'll kind of like flip the camera around and do more like tracking shots. So with this kind of shot, I actually noticed a really big difference in terms of how the cameras smooth out the shot. And I feel like because the Go Ultra is such a wide shot, that like the bounciness that you get as you're walking through the shot doesn't feel quite as apparent as it is with the Osmo Pocket 3. Because yes, even though this does have active stabilization and it will give you that buttery smooth footage, if you're not like trying your best to minimize that like bouncing up and down walking motion, there's only so much that the gimbal is going to be able to do to hide that. If anything, it will kind of like smooth and like slow out those bumps. I was genuinely really impressed that with the wider angle, it's definitely a lot more minimized with the Go Ultra than I've seen with my Osmo Pocket 3. The next shot type that I want to walk through with you guys are creative shots or creative angles. Obviously, you are going to get a ton more variety with the Go Ultra just because there are so many different mounting options. You have the magnetic easy clip, the magnetic pendant, the pivot stand, the 2-in-1 tripod, and even the camera itself is magnetic. So as long as there's some sort of magnetic surface, you can mount this camera. However, very quickly, there are actually 2 additional accessories that I have really enjoyed using when it comes to mounting and being able to place the Go Ultra truly everywhere. First one is actually for the Go 3S. This is the Flex Mount. And the reason why I love using this is because it's basically very similar to the pivot stand. Like, it has this reusable sticky grip, and then this side is magnetic. So you are able to attach the Go Ultra to it. And also rotate this to get whatever creative angle that you may need. Because the pivot stand has a larger sticky base, you might not be able to fit it in tighter spaces than you would with the Flex Mount. And I just prefer using this over the pivot stand just because it's a little bit more simple, and obviously it's a lot tinier to carry around, and it's basically smaller or like the same size of the Go Ultra. Even though this is for the Go 3S, I really do think it helps getting more of those creative shots, and it's just as tiny as the Go Ultra to fit into those really tight places. However, even though I do love the Flex Mount and the pivot stand, but after spending a whole day, you know, sticking these around everywhere, they do tend to lose their grip, especially if you don't have time to go to like the washroom and like wipe it down. So what's really nice is Insta360 thought of another solution, which is when their sticky tabs come into play. So this is just some good old adhesive, but it does have these hooks on the side, so you're able to mount your Go Ultra camera to it. Obviously, these are a little bit more of like a one-time use product, but these come in so handy because even if you do find a magnetic surface, sometimes it's like not in the most ideal spot, and they also clearly don't take up a lot of space. So I think that's what's really fun about shooting with the Go Ultra. You can just get super creative with it because there really aren't any limitations on what you can film. As long as you have battery life within this camera and good lighting, you will be able to get anything from a clean basic shot to a unique creative shot when shooting with the Go Ultra. On the flip side, with the Osmo Pocket 3, you can add something like this, which is this magnetic cage, which I do add to my Osmo Pocket 3, especially if I want to take advantage of some like magnetic mounting capabilities that I would be able to get with the Go Ultra. Something to know is like the gimbal head like directly falls in line with the magnet, so I always get really nervous whenever I am magnetically mounting this somewhere just because it cuts really close to like the most delicate part of the camera. But I will say overall, like my favorite experiences with this camera when it comes to getting creative shots is like when I am using it completely handheld. The fact that you can really work with this kind of focal length to make something look quite cinematic, I think is really fun about this camera. I do feel like whenever I am using this camera, I really do kind of have to like think outside of the box and go out of my way intentionally to get certain shots. I think I've always gotten better shots with this camera when I actually like physically move or like walk to the specific angle that I'm trying to get. And even if you want to keep it like a little bit more creatively simple, I think something else that you can take advantage of is its longer battery life. And like I showed you before, there are battery handles, so as long as you have like those, you can really use them as like battery packs and just continue filming with this thing. For me personally, what I've really enjoyed about this camera a little bit more creatively is this is actually my go-to camera whenever I am taking a ceramics class or trying to film like any kind of like pottery content, which might feel a little bit unexpected given the fact that this is, you know, a lot more durable. This is, you know, clearly waterproof and this is not. But I find in that kind of setting, when I'm just like more focused on working on my piece, I'm not really trying to get as many creative angles and shots as possible. I mean, that would be really nice, but I do feel like that takes away and distracts me from working on my piece. So something like this is really nice where I can just place it, make sure it's in that exact beautiful frame that I want, and I can kind of just like forget about it and just focus on my artwork. So that's just a small example about the different kinds of creative angles and creative shots that you guys can get with each of these cameras. So the next shot type that I want to talk about are static shots, and I love filming these. I feel like they're really helpful for the transitions and just like slowing down the pacing of my vlogs. So I would say they're like relatively pretty similar, but I think what boils down in the biggest difference between these two cameras for me is like how wide you want your shot to be, because I feel like yes, having an ultra wide shot is really, really nice, but sometimes I feel like the downside of that is you really lose like the focal point of what you're filming. For example, when I went to this Japanese garden with my mom, when I was like testing out both of these cameras, found this like really interesting angle where it was like this building on this side and then some trees kind of like surrounding this pathway that was perfectly in this like third area of the frame. And it's really interesting to kind of see the difference between the Osmo Pocket 3 and the Go Ultra, where I feel like that little pocket that I wanted to kind of focus direction on for this particular frame just looked super duper far away, and more of the attention was just like on the building itself. If you like filming in that more cinematic way where you are focusing on particular subjects and like focal lengths and stuff, then I think it's a little bit easier to do that with the Osmo Pocket 3. Next, let's talk about some detail and close-up shots. So for the Osmo Pocket 3, you are able to actually focus on something close up and get a little bit of like a blurry background. I have noticed a lot of the times if I place an object a little bit too close to the Go Ultra, it like will not be in focus at all. It just like wants everything in focus, and that's honestly not necessarily like a bad thing at all. Like I got this really cool shot where I had like these bigger leaves like sitting a little bit closer to the camera and a lot of like foliage in the background, and I feel like it came out to be like a really beautiful shot, but it just depends on what you're going for, because I filmed the same shot with my Osmo Pocket 3 and it just like blurred the background of that foliage that was behind this bigger leaf. It's not necessarily like this one's better or this one's better. It's more of like, what do you prefer? Like, do you want something that's maybe a little bit more cinematic where you have that separation between your subject and the background? Or do you just like want things to be like as raw and real as possible? I will also make this note in terms of like the zooming capabilities. I think it's a lot easier to do it on the Go Ultra just because it's like a quick little 2x button. So if you do want to like tighten up the frame and get like a closer, more detailed shot, it's actually easier to do it on the Go Ultra if you are going to be zooming in. Versus Osmo Pocket 3, you kind of have to select the zoom and use the joystick or use the touch screen. And then if you like want to move around the camera, you have to turn off the zoom and then use the joystick to adjust your angles. So yeah, I feel like from a practicality standpoint, I actually don't really use the zoom feature too often on my Osmo Pocket 3 because it's just like really, really tedious, if that makes sense. The last shot type that I want to walk through with you guys is how these cameras shoot in low light. Starting with the Go Ultra, I do feel like the picture profile or the image quality that you get when you shoot with this in low light is a lot less sharp than the Osmo Pocket 3. For example, I went to this frozen custard place with my family. They have a lot of like LED lights, so I felt like it was a really solid location to test the difference between these two cameras. And one of the tests that I did was I took a shot of just like the sign itself, and it's not like with the Go Ultra that you get like a super blurry image in general, but rather the parts of the frame that are more well lit are really sharp versus the ones that aren't. You kind of get a little bit more of a blurry effect. With the Osmo Pocket 3 footage, everything was pretty sharp. Like you could see the sign, you could also see like the detail of the individual brick pieces behind the sign as well. I think you can also see it a lot more clearly with the shots that I took of the building itself. With the Go Ultra, you can definitely see a little bit more of the details of the building, but if you kind of focus more outside of that, then you kind of get a little bit more of that like fuzziness, especially on like the edges of the frame. And I don't think it's like totally unusable footage, but I just will say in comparison to the Osmo Pocket 3, where when I took that shot with my Osmo Pocket 3, the edges of the frame were still quite sharp. Like you could even see the individual leaves that was on this tree that was a distance from the building. I hope that breakdown makes a little bit more sense. Like I've mentioned continuously before, you do get like a ton more mounting options with the Go Ultra. I was able to magnetically mount the Go Ultra to like one of the poles on the outside of the building. So I was able to capture some more candid, wholesome moments that I was not able to do on my Osmo Pocket 3. Just as a quick note, this does have pure video mode if you are shooting in low light. So I highly suggest you switch from like the video mode if you're shooting in the daytime to pure video if you're shooting in the evening. So like I've reiterated before, yes, you are going to get maybe a little bit more higher quality footage with the Osmo Pocket 3, but if getting that really like cinematic shot in low light isn't really a big deal to you, then even though the Go Ultra doesn't necessarily have the most highest quality option when it comes to low light, it might be something that you prefer because you just have a lot more options to place this camera anywhere and everywhere. And I do feel like that's probably like the biggest selling point of the Go Ultra that I hope throughout this entire shot type portion that you guys were able to see a little bit better what kind of fits your vibe more. Truly hope in this video that you guys got a good feel of both of these cameras and kind of saw which one might fit your filming vibe a little bit better. To kind of recap and like my own personal experience with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, I really do view this more as like a filmmaking tool, almost like in addition to my main setup. I've definitely used this camera quite a bit on my channel. I feel like it's really helped me maintain that cinematic experience that I really like to showcase. If I'm being completely honest, I don't take this around with me everywhere. I really do view this more as like a solo filmmaking kind of tool. So if I'm just like going about my day and I don't really have something specific in mind that I want to like cinematically capture very intentionally, then I'm typically just like leaving this at home along with like the rest of my setup. That's just kind of like my own personal take, especially since I have had this camera for quite some time. So that's just like how it has blended in with the rest of my setup. With that being said, with the Go Ultra, I really love this camera in terms of like how much fun it's added to my camera setup. I feel like what I can't do with my Osmo Pocket 3, I can do with this camera. I get so paranoid like breaking this camera, but I feel like with this one, I can truly take it anywhere. It has this really nice point and shoot feel. And out of these two, I definitely think this is a lot more of a beginner friendly option. Even though you may not necessarily get like the most perfectly framed shot with this camera, you will be able to get like 5 or more in addition to it. So it's really up to you on how creative you want to get with this camera. So I think in a general sense, this has a really nice balance between you can use it really casually and just like for fun, but you can also take it to the next level depending on how creative you want to get. So again, I hope this video is helpful. I definitely am very curious what you guys are going to think about each of these cameras. I would genuinely love to know which of these two cameras that you guys prefer or see yourself using. And I wish you guys nothing but the best, especially if you are completely new to filmmaking or making videos. But if by the end of this video you are leaning the most towards the Go Ultra, then just as a quick reminder, I will have a link to it down below. The first 10 people will receive a free gift upon purchase. So if you are leaning the most towards the Go Ultra and you're thinking of picking this up, you definitely want to be one of those first 10 people. I feel like I went informational overboard with this video, like every single one of my uploads. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!